Recording.
All right, welcome back. Oh, you gotta love that intro music. This is our 7,000 mile Stroker Big Bore DRZ review, update, whatever you want to call it. We rolled over 13,000 miles on this bike, which means nice implied. Oh wow, after you're already turning, you turned. I am not Snowcat. If you know, you know. But yeah, we are at 13,000 miles, which means we are 7,000 miles on this engine, which is super awesome. Let's see if we can get us a first gear wheelie for... There we go. Nice little first gear wheelie. Can't make the turns just yet, but it's kind of like the rest of the reviews we've done. We did a 6,500 mile review because the 6,000 mile review was kind of rushed and poorly done. And I apologize for that. I really do. Okay, updates on this engine. Nothing's changed. I changed the oil about 250 miles ago, 275 as it shows on the dash. And this thing's got the power that you want out of a converted supermoto. Let's see if I can do a wheelie for my work. I wonder if they'll like that. Third gear. Wonder what these people are doing. But this thing's got the balls, and all the people that I've let ride it, which have been very few, know it's got a lot more power even than if you put a FCR carburetor on a engine, even with cams. You know, Big Bore's a big update, Stroker's a big update, but you combine those two together and you've got one hell of a bike. And if you set it up the way I did, so if I build it, it's gonna have all the balls that this bike should have from the factory. Now this one has a CP or a Carrillo piston in it. We've been over that before. Look at my other videos. Look at my other videos on this subject. I got someone tailing me. I think they were the people that were waiting to pull out. I'm glad they didn't pull out in front of me, but anyway, on the subject at hand, with a genuine FCR 39MX carburetor, stage 2 cams, +4 bore, and I think this is a cylinder works. It's a cylinder works cylinder, big bore, +4. So we're +4 on the stroke, stroker crank by hot rods, hot cam, stage 2, and that Carrillo piston. Big factor on these things being reliable is making sure that your ring-end gap is properly set. I had to remove a lot of material on the very top ring on this. If you're not an engine builder, then you may not understand what I'm talking about. But that's okay. You don't have to understand. But if you have a real builder, if you know what you're talking about, and it may not be the same for everybody, but it's necessary. It's necessary to do that if you're not in the correct spec. So That was the biggest adjustment I had to make. We covered that in the bill. I checked the clearance between the stroker crank and the counterbalancer shaft. If you don't have it, you're going to have to clearance that crankshaft. And how do you do that? You have to remove material. So I've done those things. I didn't have to remove any of that because when metal heats up, it expands. It expands, and that's your clearance becomes less. That's the whole point of doing your ring end gap adjustment. When it expands, your clearance is going to become less. So I've done that. We're at 7,000 miles. I've not rode this thing on the rev limiter, but I've rode this bike relatively hard. Now, has it been in racing? No. Have I took it to the track? Yes, and I'm going to take it to the track here in a couple weeks. And it's going to hold up just fine. So, if you do those things correctly, you'll be in good shape. My only mistake, the only deviation from the kit, quote unquote, that I got with the, let's see, what was that? The Vertex base gasket. I did have the failure at 4,000 miles of the base gasket, and I ended up with coolant on the outside leaking out of my engine. I went back with the OEM base gasket. You know, some people might say, oh no, that's thicker, Dewey. That's a thicker base gasket. Well, yes, it is. And that means I was going to do a wheelie here. And that means that it could affect your compression a little bit. A little. Not a lot. A little bit. The main thing it is it gives you more squish. Oh man, I think that's a cop up there. Otherwise I'd do a wheelie for my mechanic shop people. We're gonna do a little lap around town here. No, I don't think that was a law enforcement officer. Well, there's traffic around anyway, so I shouldn't be busting one out anyway. But long story short, there's a lot of people on the forums, you might read it if you're a DRZ person, that people want to use the E model base gasket because it's a little thinner. Well, and if you left everything alone, and we're talking about where it meets the cases and the cylinder, and yes, you do decrease the amount of clearance you have between your head and your piston. And that's all the way across the piston. Rather than, I mean, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you go from your OEM piston to a, say, aftermarket, or even change into your E model piston, even if it's an OEM. Stay cast versus, let's see, what would that be? That would be forged, which is what this is a forged piston. But the main thing is going with a higher compression ratio. This is a 12.5 to 1, kind of like a motocross bike. That's cool, but you better run premium fuel. But it squishes it in the middle where the combustion chamber is. Instead of decreasing the squish, there's some areas of the piston where it comes really close to the head. So if you have thinner and thinner of a base gasket, you have thinner and thinner of clearance in between that piston and the head. And, you know, there's just not enough meat on the bone. I'd rather have a good quality material that doesn't delaminate like my Vertex did. That is the only problem that I've had with this engine. It's the only one I've had. I've changed the oil every 1,000 miles, which some people might say is, you know, too thorough. That's fine. You can have your own opinion. I'm using Rotella T4 15W40. Oh, that's not what you're supposed to use. Hey, you don't have to use the oil that I say. You don't have to. Oh. This road has some deeper ditches, and I don't want to run that. We got some weird wheelie wind going. Wheelie wind. We got some weird wind going on, so I want to be careful. But, you know, hey, I choose that oil. If you want to use a different oil, do. It's fine. Just make sure it's wet clutch rated. That's why I use that. I'm in a rural community, and I get 5 gallons of it at a time when I want to. So that's why I do it. I get 2.5 gallon jugs, and it's cost me 0 issues. So we've covered the problems like I have before, but in case it's the first time watching these videos, go back and check the other ones. I've gotten, I think, a little better at these vlogs and keeping the pace up on talking. I do get a little sidetracked sometimes because I do this after the end of a work day, so sometimes I get a little tired and not as articulate. But this engine with the carburetor is magic, and it's a very important part of this. It's an FCR39 MX. You know, a lot of people, you know, the drag people, they want to drag race these things for whatever reason. They want to do the biggest cams, the oversized valves, and all that stuff, and you end up with reliability issues on that. Let's see if we can get a good wheelie here. I ended up pulling to the left here, so we're still trying to get better at that. We're still trying to get a little better, but keeping things transparent. But there are some higher power options out there with the different cams that are available, and they grind stock cams and they do this and that. But on keeping something factory or close to factory reliability, that's what my goal is on this build. We still have a supermoto with 2 quarts of oil capacity, and it's got power something like what a converted supermoto has. And that is a big key to, I think, my success and just success for this platform in general. And if you want to drag race a DRZ and stretch it and look like a doofus, please do that, because people need something to laugh at. And I will laugh at it too. So I do it all the time on the forums and on the groups on Facebook, and you'll get a clown emoji for the comment from me every single time. Maybe even a unicorn with a rainbow, because that's what you deserve. You know, there's people that put a 180 rear wheel on a rear tire on these. Okay. Just because it goes on and you can get the bead to set doesn't mean it fits. But stretch it, lower it, be a complete doofus. But don't do that. Don't do that. Really, don't do that. But a stroker big bore, it's got the power, and I really enjoy it. I'm still enjoying it. 7,000 miles. It's taking us a little while to do it. Here when it gets cold, I'll be putting my wheel set, or my tire set on it, excuse me, with the knobbies for my winter, and I look forward to that. When I took them off, I really missed them to a certain extent. Let's see. make this uncool place cool. Haha, suckers. That's some fresh tarmac, though. Very uneven. Let's see, what else can I say about the way that I set this up? Yes, I know you can build more power out of it, but there's only so many horsepower hours in an engine, and if you want less hours and more horsepower for that time, you can build it that way. But if you're taking it to that point, you really shouldn't even be taking it on the road. Or I guess you could. Hello. They were mugging. Hey, kid. Kid is on a skateboard. That means he's cool. But hey, we're at the gym. Almost. So that concludes this update review edition for the Stroker Big Bore DRZ, aka this bike, my 2016 DRZ400SM, the doozy, the DEWEY, or excuse me, DEWZEE, doozy, doozed for the people across the phone. Oh, here's another thing that we've done recently. I put these auto boosters on. Let's see if we hear it. Want to see my burger? Please like, comment, and